Hello and welcome to another episode of Square Up with GraySquare. On this episode, we will be replaying a call Tim Koontz, President of GraySquare, ran for our leadership team. He discusses about excuses we make and how to avoid them. We hope you enjoy.
Here's your message, your 2 cents for the week here. I think one of the things that everyone tries to do is once they do anything of value, they look back and they say, okay, what the hell just happened? You know, like you make $1 million and you look back at the $1 million and you say, what did I just do to get $1 million so that you can try and recreate it a second time? For me, I'm going to give you kind of my pet peeves. There also happen to be, to me, the quote unquote, only things that matter. The reason these are the only things that matter is because all the other stuff I've changed 10 different times and I haven't gotten dramatically better or worse results. There's things that I think I've improved on over the years. And when I look at how much impact those things have had, it's not a ton. At least I don't think it is. You know, it's not, I don't feel like I've gotten dramatically better based on those things. Then I look back at like other little stupid stuff and I'm like, I look at somebody that doesn't kick ass and I look at somebody that does kick ass. And I'm like, they got these 3 things and those guys over there don't. I think the proof of this is everyone on this call could rattle off 5 people that you think are not super intelligent that have a lot of money. I also think you could probably rattle off probably a lot more than 5. You could rattle off 5 people that are brilliant and the smartest people you've ever met that are poor or middle class doing nothing. That's the proof that what I'm going to give you is kind of the meat, the bread and butter, so to say, of your ability to be king, queen of the world. And to me, the proof of it is like I've had big offices in 2008, the whole way through 2019. And I've gotten a lot better at the business, I would hope, over a period of 11 years plus 2 years before that. So over 13 years, I've gotten a lot better, I would hope, than I was when I started. And yet, 2008, we had a big office. So, 2009, we had 4 offices. But yet, I sucked then when I looked at it. When I look at my skill level, I was terrible. I had 50 guys in my office, but I was really, really bad. I was bad at decision making. I made tons of stupid decisions. I was bad at taking care of my people. My strategy in general was awful. Like it made no sense. And yet that's what we were doing. And we still had a big office. My recruiting, my ability to recruit was terrible, comparable to where it is now. And yet, if you were to ask like who knew me before we were partners, if you were to ask him, I bet, if you were to ask him, what is the stereotype about Koontz? He'd probably tell you from back in the day, recruiting. And yet, I think we're freaking awful at it, comparable to now. So why were we good at it? So here's the list. The first 2 I'm not even going to talk about. But I'll give them to you anyhow. So same thing. If somebody comes to me and I question any of these things, I want to kill them. Like literally, it drives me insane if I see one of these 3 things. Like if somebody comes to me and I have to question this, like literally, I don't even want to work with them. Like it just drives me nuts because I know they're a bad investment. I just know they're a bad investment. And like I also know that I did stuff just slightly different that is going to that made me advance, and this stuff that they're doing doesn't advance. And these are the 3 things. The first one, super simple, is work ethic. The reason my recruiting was good in like Louisville, I know you guys, I always mention Louisville. And the only reason I mention Louisville is because that was when I was the worst. And yet we still did pretty damn well. So my recruiting was banging in Louisville. Here's why. I posted 24 Craigslist ads per day. My next closest competitor posted one per week. Is that intelligence? No. Were my ads awesome? No. Were they super witty? No. Am I an advertising major from college or a marketing major from college that writes terrific advertising that Pepsi would want to buy? No. I mean, stupid kid that has no idea what the hell I'm talking about. But if I have 168 Coca-Cola commercials during the Super Bowl and Pepsi has one commercial during the Super Bowl, I'm going to sell more Coca-Cola. It is what it is. It was just a work ethic thing. Like, how did we hit a home run my first year at December graduation? Was it because I was super prepared for a bunch of 21-year-old graduates? Absolutely not. I had no idea. Like, now we have a system for getting college graduates. Then I didn't have anything, but I can tell you this. I posted 24 ads on Christmas Eve and on Christmas Day. Not a single other person in my entire state worked Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and I did 20 minutes of work on Christmas Day, which was infinitely more than everyone else did, and we got 630 people, literally 630 people in one day. I bet that there are companies in Philadelphia that have not had 630 people walk through their door in the last 5 years. So work ethic. When I was in the field, our standard was to see 35 businesses per day. Landon will attest that if I was nothing else, when I was in the field, I was a maniac. I would sprint instead of walk, and I would drive really fast instead of dicking around. And my lunch practically didn't exist, and this, that, and the other thing. And religiously, I would see 100+ businesses every day to everyone else's 35. I wasn't any good as a salesman. I just outworked them. I had literally 3+ times the opportunities that they did. And then people would be like, how are you doing 3 times the sales of everyone else? You must be awesome at this. And in reality, I knew what was really up. I knew that I was full of shit, that I wasn't so awesome at it. I was just hustling. So same thing in Philly. I worked a minimum of 6 days. Most people that I run into in the external world, somebody calls me and they're like, hey, can you give me a good deal to sell door-to-door energy? Most of the time, their guys work 3 to 4 days a week, and mine worked 6. That's it. Wasn't anything cool. It wasn't because my relationships with the client were awesome or anything like that. It was that the clients eventually were like, they'll work really hard if they work for us, and then all of a sudden I had master contracts and more money than my competitors. That was it. Just work ethic. All right, so that was number one. Same thing. If somebody comes to me and they're like, yeah, but I got something going on, so I can't work. I'm like, I don't want to talk to you. Like, leave me alone. Like, it just drives me absolutely insane because I know it is a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for disaster. Well, I need Saturday off because I need to rest. Fuck out of here. Like, we're young. The whole point of this is so that one day I can do whatever the hell I want to do, and I never get to that one day taking time off now. I chase that one day for the next 50 years, and I retire poor. I don't want to do that, so I want to hump it, The second thing on the list here is attitude. The 3 things, attitude. Same thing. Every wealthy person I know has the attitude that everything's going to be fine. They're like stupid optimistic. They're stupid optimistic. If today's awesome, they're thinking tomorrow's going to be better. And if today's terrible, they're thinking everything's fine. It'll get better. And their attitude is just impeccable. Shit happens to people. I had something awful happen to me yesterday. Truly awful. And I don't know that Landon knows, and he's sitting here at my house. He doesn't know that we experienced something really bad in our family. Why? Because what is it going to do for me? What is it going to do to help me or my family or my loved ones or my business or anything like that? Shit happens. So people with the attitude of bad things happen, I got to keep making my life better, win. People with bad things just happened, life is shit, lose. Simple as that. All right. The third thing is excuse making. Excuse making. And this is what we're going to go into. To me, my third X factor is people that make excuses. And me, I was king excuse maker. And I still feel like my my biggest problem of these three things is this one. Work ethic to me is a piece of cake because I'm like kind of a maniac. Like I work 7 days a week because I actually enjoy it. And I have a wife that's stupid enough to put up with it. But I like it. You know, so on Sunday, I don't take off. I do stuff. You know, at 10 o'clock last night, I was on the phone trying to make money. You know, and like it's just kind of me. So that one's easy for me. The attitude thing is kind of easy for me because I'm not very empathetic, I guess, or whatever it is. I just kind of do my thing. This one to me is my Achilles heel, is the excuse making because my natural tendency is to protect myself and kind of lie to myself. Every good entrepreneur has the mentality that everything, I mean everything, is their fault. If if Chris Johnson walks up to my house, pours gasoline on it, and burns it down, whose fault was it? Mine, not Chris's. That's how entrepreneurs think. If I go out of business because my client was committing federal fraud and they're now all in prison and they went out of business, which puts me out of business, they're not the assholes. I'm the asshole. That's how entrepreneurs think. And that's how the excuse making comes in because they don't want to give any power away. As soon as it's somebody else, something else, some severe circumstance, whatever, I've given all power away because I don't have control over whether a hurricane hits Florida. If a hurricane can put me out of business forever, I suck. Because I'm not going to be able to stop hurricanes in Florida. That's how entrepreneurs think. How people that don't win think is, I hope circumstances go right, and they never do. Or they say, something else was controlling my failure. All right, so here are loopholes that we create in our head that secretly are bullshit, and we know it, but we still use them. 10 loopholes. All right. The first loophole is the false choice loophole. False choice. This is an example is I can't do this because I'm so busy doing that. That's excuse number one that people make. I can't do X because I'm so busy doing Y. That's the loser excuse. The winner thinks, okay, either I can't do this now because I'm doing that, so I'm going to partner with somebody, or they say, I'm going to work 3 times as hard because of the fact that I can't do that. So they either get people around them to do quote unquote that, or they get people or they work twice as hard to do that. So to me, if I'm in charge of 10 different things and I say, oh, I can't do number 11 because I'm already doing these 10, I am making an excuse. I either need to find someone to do number 11, or I need to work hard enough and put extra time in to do number 11. That may sound maniacal because, yes, let's say I'm working 60 hours and now I got something I got to work 65 hours. You are insane. The other choice of insanity, though, would be losing. So that's why false choice is an excuse. It's just it's false. It's an excuse that you're using to protect yourself. So that people say, well, dude, what do you expect? How is Steve going to do 11 things? He's already got 10 to do. And they give you a break. Entrepreneurs do not want breaks. They want victory. All right, number 2, the moral licensing loophole. Moral licensing. This is like, I've been so good, it's okay for me to do this. This is when you hear somebody say, okay, I've been eating really healthy, so that's okay for me to eat this brownie. That is an excuse. It's using bad behavior. There is no good reason in a world of, if you're trying to be healthy, there's no good reason to be unhealthy. 10 million decisions does not make an unhealthy choice healthy. It'd be like Landon saying, I don't smoke cigarettes, so I'm going to smoke one. Hey, because that's just stupid. It's an excuse. It's moral licensing. It's the same thing that happens in the business. It's like, well, I've been working really hard, so it's okay for me to be lazy today. No. There's either the right decision or the wrong decision. Rationalizing a bad decision based on a series of good decisions is excuse making. So once again, that's called moral licensing. All right. Number 3.
The planning to fail loophole. Like literally, this is Jay Summits. And then I go on a quest to prove myself right. And I planned to fail. I didn't plan to have a successful relationship with Jay. I planned that Jay's a loser. And then I went through and forced the execution of my bad hypothesis. And that was, that's why I failed. Same thing. It's an excuse. It's an excuse. Like, if I go into something planning to fail, I'm making myself a loophole. Because then afterwards, when I fail, I can come back and say, see, I told you so. Winners don't do that. Winners go into something thinking, I'm going to win. Nothing else. Like one of my 2 mottos is winners win. Winners go into something thinking they're going to win. Losers go into something thinking, this is perfect. I have the best loophole in the back end. Like that by saying that, you already admitted defeat. It's like this past week in the Northeast, if you're in the Northeast, like it snowed. If you go into a snow day thinking, okay, if I roll a donut today, no one will bitch because it was a snow day. Like they weren't expecting me to do well anyhow. That's an excuse. That's an excuse. The winner goes in saying, dude, it's a snow day. I don't care what has to happen. I got to figure out how to get people to do whatever I want them to do, regardless of it. They're not looking for somebody to say, oh, dude, it's okay. It was a snow day. I'm sure the stores were dead. They're not hoping for that. That is the planning to fail loophole, where you already have the excuse made and you're already excited about the fact that you can't lose before you go in. All right? Number 6. This doesn't count loophole. This doesn't count. It's similar in thinking to what I just talked about. But this is like, oh, well, I failed, but I was on vacation. Like, I failed, but like, it was the weekend. It was Super Bowl Sunday. That's why we didn't do well. It was Game 7 of the NBA Finals. No wonder no one wanted to answer the door. This doesn't count. Where you discount failure by blaming it on external factors. Once again, all 6 of these things are completely relevant. They're completely true. And anyone buys them. If I tell somebody that, hey, I failed today because it was Super Bowl Sunday, every single person in the world accepts that and will not criticize you for that failure, except for one person, the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur says, I don't care. I don't care if it was Super Bowl Sunday, the world got hit by a nuclear missile, Donald Trump outlawed all retail stores. On top of that, it was a blizzard, a hurricane, nuclear holocaust, politics, and a zombie apocalypse at the same time. Everyone is like, wow, that's crazy. Of course you failed, except for one person, the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur says, I don't care about any of that. Philadelphia got hit by a nuclear missile. I'm still going to make it happen today. That's how entrepreneurs think. And it sounds absolutely ridiculous. It sounds absolutely ridiculous, but it's the only mentality that wins. Next one. The questionable assumption loophole. Questionable assumption. This is where you know something is bad, but you find questionable evidence to support your bad behavior. So, for instance, if you go to the store right now, go to 7-Eleven and pick up Swedish fish, like the candy. So on the bag of candy, it says fat-free food on sugar. You're buying 2 ounces of straight sugar, and it says fat-free. The questionable assumption loophole is I say, oh, this is healthy. It says so on the bag. There's not a single person that's ever eaten a Swedish fish and known that it's healthy. They've convinced themselves through excuse making that it's healthy, and then they ask themselves why they're fat. That's how it goes. Once the entrepreneurs don't do that. Entrepreneurs don't need questionable assumptions to rationalize bad behavior, because entrepreneurs want good behavior regardless of it. You know, it's like I'm down here in Colombia. They're always like, oh, you know, like rice is good for you. I'm like, it's not good for you. It's just you guys like they're like, well, let me find you an article that shows you that it's good for you. I'm like, no one thinks it's good for you. It tastes good, but it's not healthy. You know, like, get out of here. It's the same thing of you, you going online, you saying, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I only want to work 30 hours a week. Then you go online and you scour the internet and find somebody that says the 30-hour work week is actually more productive than the 40-hour work week. Here's the problem. No one is clicking like except for people that want to make the excuse and found that article. No entrepreneurs clicking it because everybody that's successful knows that it's bullshit. And same thing. There's no one in the world sitting around saying, oh, that sounds like a great idea. To be king of the world, I'm going to do less than everyone else. Like, it's just a questionable assumption that we rationalize in our head. You know, like literally, if you read like a book about high performance, you know, Chris was talking a year or so ago about like the 4-hour work week thing. The point of the 4-hour work week is not to work 4 hours because it's a good idea. The point of it is to improve your efficiency and to understand how to get more done through delegation, relegation, elimination of, you know, in general, so that you can use your time for more productive things. But it's not to sit on your ass and do nothing all day. But you could literally pick that book up and say, not even read it. You don't even have to read it. Walk up and say, look, I only work 4 hours because there's a book that entrepreneurs read that says only work 4 hours. And that right there is a questionable assumption. If you have to rationalize your behavior, you're wrong. Like you're wrong. It's kind of like interviewing. If you have to rationalize why I'm hiring somebody, That's the answer to the fact that I shouldn't have hired them in the first place. Same thing here. If I say, oh, well, but, like, it's plausible that eating this is good for me. It's possible that this is a good idea. Right there, that's your litmus test, that you're making an excuse. So, the questionable assumption. All right, number 8, concern for others, loophole. I can't do this because it may make people uncomfortable. Whatever. Same thing. This is kind of cold-hearted, but in the world of capitalism, in the world of entrepreneurship, I'm not saving the whales. I'm not saying what's comfortable, not uncomfortable. I'm saying what makes the most sense to win. And you know, if I hurt somebody's feelings because they're not aligned with me, cool. Shit happens. It's better for both of you. But a lot of times the moral compass thing here, like concern for others, is literally, most of the time, it's just an excuse. It's like, well, I don't want to do this because it may rub somebody the wrong way. You're just rationalizing not doing something or doing something. Like the entrepreneur would think, this is what has to be done, so how do I make it? How do I accomplish it so that people aren't rubbed the wrong way? So that people aren't comfortable, because this has to happen. You know, we have to increase the price of, you know, Hershey bars by 20%. So how do we do that without pissing everybody off? They don't say we can't do it because then people will be pissed off. That's not how an entrepreneur thinks. An entrepreneur thinks we got to do it. So how do we do it in an effective way? Not how do we not do it? Right. So concern for others, loophole. Number 9 is the fake self-actualization. Fake self-actualization. This is, you only live once, you may as well embrace it. This is like, well, I'm going to go out and get hammered on Friday night instead of taking care of my guys. Yeah, because you're only young once, man. Like, same thing. It's just rational. It's an excuse. It's rationalizing of behavior. Yeah, same thing. The entrepreneur, like me, I passed up on things early so I could do them 10 times later. I have this like quote thing I like. It's like, I want to do once in a lifetime stuff more than once in a lifetime. Like, I don't want, like, if somebody comes to me and says, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to take this trip to Paris, I'm like, I want to work hard enough now that I can go to Paris anytime I want to. If I want to go 20 times, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for you. It's not for me. Yeah, so that's the fake self-actualization. Is that, oh, well, you're only 25 one time. Like, not if you do it right. Like, if you do it right, you can live a long, prosperous life doing whatever you want. If you do it wrong, yeah, you can spend 3 days in Disneyland as opposed to 4 weeks every year for the next 40 years. And it's just fake self-actualization. People do this all the time, you know, in general life. It's like, you know, I'm going to do something stupid because you only got one life to live, as opposed to saying, like, no, I'm just not going to do stupid stuff, which would allow them to win as opposed to, you know, lose. Or same thing. People will say, I've been working really hard this year. I have $2,000 in the bank, and I've been working really hard this year. I deserve to go on vacation for $3,000. Like, or I've been working really hard. I'm broke, but I worked really hard this year, so I'm going to take a vacation that I can't afford anyhow because I deserve it. Like, that same thing. It's an excuse. It's a myth. If you deserved it, you'd be able to do it. So if you can't do it, if you can't afford it, it's because you don't deserve it yet. But same thing, most people come back to the fake self-actualization. Last one, number 10. a psychologist called this one coin. One coin. The one coin loophole. That is, what difference does it make if I break my habit one time? Like, what difference does that make if I do something stupid just this one time? Like, this is how, like, drug addicts think. It's like, dude, it's only one time, no big deal. Like, that, same thing. It's an excuse. If I say, oh, you know what, like, I'm gonna sleep in instead of doing interviews today. It's only this one time. Right there, that's how you know you're making an excuse. Because it should be 0 times. You know, an entrepreneur doesn't accept a failure rate. They try to eliminate the failure rate. Like, if they screw up and sleep in and don't do interviews for a day, they're saying, God, what is wrong with me? Not, it's no big deal. It's only one time. Like, no, it was a big deal. It's a big deal. Like, what if somebody on this call happened to walk in for an interview the day that you skipped interviewing? Like, I think about that shit, like, all the time. Like, what if I would have been sick the day that Mark had his prelim? What if my kid were sick the day of the prelim? What if the kid were sick and I decided to make excuses instead of doing the interview from the hospital? What if I got a flat tire and was 30 minutes late? What if the subway was running behind? Like, all those things are what ifs that could have cost me probably millions of dollars. That's how, like, you have to live with that type of fear surrounding bad behavior. It's like you just never know what's going to happen. You know, like, it's like, I'm not going to check the stock market today if you're a stock investor. I'm not going to check the stock market today because it's only one day. But what if that were the day? What if that were the day? It's like, I'm not going to read the newspaper today to find out where I should put my money. And what if that was the day that Google was for sale for $1 20 years ago and you could have made yourself a trillionaire? Like, and you skipped it one time. Like, that's how entrepreneurs think. Entrepreneurs think this one time could be the most important moment of my life. I never want to be I never want to use my one time. Losers, and once again, losers not meaning like the way we use it in pop culture. Losers meaning the opposite of winners. They think it's only one time, it's not that big of a deal, the one coin loophole. Winners think it's one time, and that one time is incredibly valuable. All right, so excuse-making conference call. Hopefully you got something out of it. It's definitely something you could run, for your guys. You could take back to the field because, like, literally, this to me is one of the crux that we get to. It's like literally, like, you're gonna have your guys come to you with a million great excuses, and guess what? None of them matter because everyone's got them. Everyone has the same thing. Everyone has sick kids. Everyone has death in family. Everyone has bad things happen, good things happen, vacation, this, that, and that. Everyone has these things. Everyone. And yet, there are people that win and people that lose. There's millionaire entrepreneurs with families, and there's broke people with families. One of them is making an excuse that it was their family's fault. The other one is using the family to make good decisions, saying, you know what, the kid's sick, I'm going to work hard because I want to take care of my kid. The other one's saying, the kid's sick, this is an excuse for me to move that will make it that I don't feel that bad. It's just a completely different mentality. You can find stories on both sides of the fence for basically any situation. We lost, we won. The circumstances were the same. What was the difference? One person was making excuses. The other person wasn't making excuses. If you ever open up your mouth and say, Well, Steve, right there, you're the loser. If I say, well, but here's the thing, Bill was blah, blah, blah. Right there, I made the excuse, I lost. If I open up my mouth and say, I got to figure out how to handle this, I will infinitely win. I'll just infinitely win. Short-term losses, yes. Short-term failures will happen. But long-term, you will win. There's no doubt about it. Because your mindset is right to correct behavior to improve for the future. And I just see this, all of this. I still see it all the time, in our own organization. See in our own organization when it's like, well, Tim fired this guy. So what? What does that have to do with anything? What does it have to do with anything? You should be saying, why didn't I? Why didn't I do it? It was a good decision. Why didn't I do it? Now I'm accepting winning as opposed to accepting losing. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. If you need me, hit me up.